In Scotland, a very high percentage of the population voted to remain in the EU, but because they're in the UK, they have to do what the Union says as a whole, therefore they had to leave the EU along with the rest of the UK.
On the 29th of August 2019, the UK Parliament was ordered to be prorogued by the Queen, on the advice of PM Boris Johnson. Johnson did this to frustrate Parliament's efforts at scrutinising his Brexit deal. Nearly a month later, on the 24th of September, the Supreme Court ruled unanimously that the prorogation was unlawful, and therefore null and of no effect. The problem with the prorogation arises with the fact that Boris Johnson had no good reason to prorogue Parliament, but the Queen could not refuse to follow through, as this would have caused a constitutional crisis.
Since the UK left the EU, EU law no longer has authority over Parliament, and Parliament isn't bound by EU laws. Parliament is allowed to amend or repeal any acts passed by previous parliaments. Parliament can now make new laws on any subject it pleases, whereas when we were in the EU, Parliament couldn't do anything against EU law. A good example of this is a tampon tax, which Parliament disagreed with, but due to us being in the EU Parliament, we were bound by this law. However, upon leaving the EU, Parliament was no longer obliged to keep this law, as within the first week of January, Boris Johnson's government abolished this law.
When Britain left the European Union, citizens were no longer able to take human rights cases to the European Court of Human Rights. Instead, they would have to take them to UK courts. In 2013, Abu Qatada, a Jordanian man with links to several terrorist organisations, was deported by the UK government. However, this was not the first time the UK had tried to deport him. In 2012, the European Court of Human Rights barred the UK from deporting him. Now that the UK has left the EU, what is to stop the government from illegally deporting people in the future?
Despite the UK being a unitary state, due to Scotland having their own parliament, they are able to pass their own laws to an extent. For example, Scottish exams for school pupils were cancelled in Scotland before they were in England.
Because of the nature of the pandemic, Parliament passed the Coronavirus Act 2020 in March. This gave the government and ministers the power to, amongst other things, introduce subsequent legislation which restricts the movements of people to control the spread of the virus. These COVID laws are published a few hours before they come into force, so Parliament has no time to debate them. They also can't be amended or improved. Essentially, Parliament only gets to rubber stamp them. A problem with the power that the Coronavirus Act yields is that new laws can be introduced by individual ministers and cannot be stopped by Parliament, as the government has a compliant majority. The basis of rule of law is that all laws apply to all people at all times, and all in the same way. On the 6th of April 2020, Dominic Cummings travelled 260 miles from London to Durham to his parents' estate. In doing this, he breached COVID regulations. However, he was not punished. On the 29th of September 2020, Scottish MP Margaret Ferrier travelled from London to Scotland on a train, despite receiving a positive COVID test result the night before. She was suspended from the SNP as a result, and Nicola Sturgeon said that she should step down as an MP. Months later, on the 4th of January 2021, she was arrested by Scottish police for culpable and reckless conduct. This clearly shows that certain laws do not apply to all people and not in the same way.